Hello everyone, in this video we will go over currency in Path of Exile and also crafting, because currency and crafting kind of go hand in hand. So first of all, I'm going to explain to you the basics of crafting. So in Path of Exile you have a bunch of different items, and these items can have different rarities as we call them. You can have a normal rarity, which is basically an item without any modifiers added to it. You can then have a magic rarity, which is items that are looking blue like this, that can have certain modifiers added to them. And then you also have rare rarity, which is the yellow item like this, as you can see here. And then we also have unique, which are these like brown orange looking items as well. So the thing is that all items can become normal, rare, or in certain cases also unique by adding certain currencies on them. And to quickly explain kind of how items work as well, I can explain that every item usually has a form of implicit, which you can see on this belt. If I hold down the Alt button, you can see at the top here it says implicit modifier life, plus 40 to maximum life. That is because this is a leather belt, so the implicit of leather belts are life. You have different items that can have different implicits though. So this is a rustic sash that has the implicit increased global physical damage. Now every item can have different explicits as well, and these are called prefixes and suffixes. Normal items have none. Magic items can have one of each. So here on this nubuck glove I have a prefix and also a suffix. The prefix increases increased variety of items found, while the suffix is giving me some lightning resistances. Now rare items can have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes as well. And do keep in mind that items that have an implicit have the implicit on the base item itself, and then I can add more things to it. So let's look at this rustic sash here. The implicit stands the same all the time, but now I've added a bunch of prefixes and suffixes to it. And I can have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes along with the implicit. Now, that is a lot of information to take in, but that is because Path of Exile has a pretty insane and complex crafting system. But if you just try to think of it like that, you have base items, they have implicit modifiers most of the time, or the base item can have things like these bronze scale gauntlets. This is a hybrid between armor and evasion. So this one doesn't have an implicit, but it has a hybrid modifier that it gives armor and evasion, so you can be a little bit tankier and you can dodge some enemies' attacks and stuff like that, and so on and so on. And then you'll of course have these unique items as well that are always going to be the same. These are Facebreaker strap mitts. Facebreaker is what the item is called, and these will always be the same. The modifiers will always be the same. 30% to global critical strike multiplier, 10% reduced enemy stun threshold, and then a percentage of more physical damage with unarmed melee attacks, and then extra gore. The only thing that is different on unique items is that some of these modifiers can have different ranges. So as you can see here, it says in the parentheses of the more physical damage with unarmed melee attacks, it says 600 to 800%. So when I drop a Facebreaker item, or when I buy this or whatever, it can range between 600 to 800%. So this having 697, this is like a mid roll. It's not a terrible roll, but it's not also the best roll that you can have. Now, the same thing goes for other items as well. Let's look at these Spirit Palm Trapper mitts. I have certain modifiers here, and the modifiers have different ranges. For example, the prefix modifier Ethereal here has 27 to 42% increased evasion and energy shield. So this is of course going to increase the evasion and energy shield of the base item. So as you can see here on the top, it says 94 and 21. When I look at the item otherwise, it says 68 and 15. But because of this ethereal modifier, we have now increased the evasion and energy shield, so it is now 94 and 21. But you can also have different tiers on the modifiers as well. The ethereal tier is tier 6. The higher the tier is, the higher the range of the modifiers can be as well. So for example, let's look at this ring that I have here. We have tier 7 strength and tier 7 intelligence. But on the ring that I have on my character, for example, I have tier 1 strength, 51 to 55. While the strength of this ring has 18 to 22 because it is tier 7. And another quick thing that I need to add here is that the tier of an item is also based off the item level. At the top of this ring here, you can see item level 35, while on this ring that I have on my character is item level 84. So certain tiers can only be applied to an item if the item level is high enough. For example, this item level 35 ring, I cannot get tier 1 strength because the item level is too low. Now we're going to quickly go over the basic currency in Path of Exile and how these work and why they're also considered currency in a sense. So currency in Path of Exile is not any form of gold or silver or copper or anything like that that you use to trade with other people or buy things from NPCs. Instead, currency in Path of Exile are called different orbs, and they are currency because people find them valuable because they are used for crafting. Certain items are used to make certain orbs and currency are used to make some really incredibly strong gear, and therefore they have higher value. So for example, this is an orb of transmutation, which is considered one of the lowest forms of currency. It says on every orb exactly what it does as well. In some cases it can be a little bit hard to understand, but in most cases it is very easy to understand. For example, this orb of transmutation upgrades a normal item to a magic item. So here I have a pair of gloves that has the normal rarity. I can use this orb of transmutation in order to make them magic rarity. And therefore I now have lightning resistance as a suffix because this is now a magic item, and it therefore added a modifier to make them blue because you need to have a modifier on an item for them to be considered magic or rare. If this does not have any modifiers at all, it is therefore a normal item. So this is now a better item. Let's say I had these gloves before, I didn't have anything on it, but now I have lightning resistances, so now I can mitigate lightning damage better. You also have, I forgot one here, you also have here an orb of augmentation. Augments a magic item with a new random modifier. So for example, on this bronze scale gauntlet here, I have one suffix, but that leaves it open for one prefix. As I said earlier, magic items can have one of each. So I have one open prefix here, so I can use my orb of augmentation on this, and now I have added life. One prefix, one suffix, because I augmented the item with a new random modifier. You can also reforge a magic item with new random modifiers with the use of an orb of alteration. So if I want to re-roll the modifiers and I want to change them into something else, I can use this. What this means is that I'm going to lose my life, I'm going to lose my resist, and it's going to add something new. Instead, I got cold resistances and physical damage to attacks. Now, you can also use an orb of scouring on an item that will remove all the modifiers from that item. So for example, here on my trapper mitts, I can use an orb of scouring, and it's going to make my trapper mitts into a normal item now. I could then use an orb of alchemy, which will upgrade a normal item to a rare item. This is very much the same as the transmutation, but instead it's going to turn into a rare item. So I now have two prefixes and two suffixes on this rare item. Kinda unlucky that none of the mods are actually good for me, but you know, it is what it is. And also kinda unlucky that I didn't get three prefixes or three suffixes here. But do keep in mind that if you have an item that has an open prefix or has an open suffix, you can go to your crafting bench and you can craft something if you want yourself. Now, these are the most common form of trading currency in Path of Exile. These are called Chaos Orbs. Reforges a rare item with new random modifiers, which is basically the same as an alteration, but it is instead used on rare items. So if I use a Chaos Orb on this item, it's going to re-roll everything and it's going to give me a set of new modifiers. This can be used if you want to spam craft something, but it's not very good because, like I said, the Chaos Orb is the normal form of trading currency and is therefore has some decent value. For example, transmutations have very low value, Orb of Alchemy have decent value, but Orb of Alchemies have very high value at the start of a league, and Chaos Orb is your standard form of trading currency. Now I can use this again, and this time I got Dexterity, whatever, resists. I have an open prefix, I could craft life to this, and this could now be a decent item. So keep that in mind that you can use this for crafting, but I would advise against doing that unless you know exactly what you're doing. Now, the reason why Chaos Orbs are the normal form of trading currency is because many orbs are used for bench crafting. As you can see here, I can add 71 to 85 life to armors and such, and it will then use Chaos Orbs. And also in the map device, if I want to add some form of content to my maps as well, you can add them by using certain things in the map device here. Like I can add Metamorph to my maps, and these are also using Chaos Orbs when you use them up. So for example, you can't see that right now, but the Expedition might cost me 6 Chaos every time I add it to a map. So that is why Chaos Orbs are very valuable and used as the standard trading currency. Now, you also have a lot of other form of currency in Path of Exile. You have currencies that improve the quality of certain things, like whetstones improve the quality of your weapons, which is going to increase the damage. Armor scraps is can be used on armors and boots, gloves, helmet, body armors and such, which can increase armor, evasion, and energy shield. Glassrose baubles are used on flasks to give them higher quality, which give them a longer period that they're up, like lasts more seconds. You have gem cutter prisms, which increases the quality of gems, which also has additional effects for the gem. For example, this one here gives increased area damage. And then you have cartographer chisels, which improves the quality of a map, which increases the amount of modifiers that the map has, how strong they are, and the rewards and such and so on. You also have Orb of Chance, which can be quite interesting to use, which can upgrade a normal item to a random rarity. I got magic now, magic again. It is kind of random what you can get, obviously, as it says, random rarity. I'm hoping that I'm going to get rare. Here we go. You can hit rare, and you can also hit unique. So you can make your own unique items by using Orb of Chance, but the outcome of the unique item is going to depend on the base of the item. Trapper mitts, Nubuck gloves, bronze scale gauntlets, depending on what base item you have depends on what unique you actually get in the end. And it can be different uniques if multiple uniques share the same base item. Now, there is also a lot of other forms of currency, as you can see here in my currency tab, but we're not going to go over all of them. I'm just going to go over some of them really quickly right now. If you're interested in knowing more about Jeweler Orbs, Orb of Fusing, or Chromatic Orbs, I have another video on sockets, links, and gems that explain how this works, because the sockets on an item depends on what gems you can put in it and how you socket different support gems along with main gems to make your gems stronger, and gems are basically skills, and so on and so on. Just go check that other video if you want to learn more about that. Now, there are a bunch of other forms of currency in Path of Exile. You have your Orb of Regret, which gives you a refund point. You have Orb of Unmaking, which gives you Atlas passive refund point. You have Orb of Horizons, which changes a map into another map. Harbinger Orb, which upgrades a map to higher tier. So on and so on. One kind of important thing to know as well is that Vaal Orbs corrupts an item, modifying it unpredictably. When you use a Vaal Orb of an item, you cannot change the outcome of the item anymore after you have done it. So if I were to use, let's say, an Orb of Alchemy on my gloves here, I now will use a Vaal Orb. It can change all the modifiers. It can change the item into something else. It can add a specific corrupted implicit as well. And when I do this, I cannot change the item anymore. So it now got corrupted, it changed the modifiers. I can no longer use any form of crafting currency on this. target is corrupted. I can't use some Orb of Scouring. I can't change this with a Chaos Orb. So keep that in mind. If you ever use Vaal Orbs, then be cautious and always know what you're doing before using the Vaal Orb, because a lot of items can break. Let's say I have my Face Breakers here. I use it, nothing happened. That can also happen. You can get white sockets. You can destroy a unique item into a rare item, so you lose the unique modifiers. You can give it certain implicits, like I said. There are so many things that can happen, so be very cautious before using Vaal Orbs. And one very important thing in Path of Exile to know as well is that Exalted Orbs and Divine Orbs are very powerful forms of crafting, and therefore they are very valuable currency. Exalted Orbs augments a rare item with a new random modifier. Basically what this is that this is an orb of augmentation, but it can be used on rare items instead. So let's say that I have new buck gloves here, and well, I had three prefixes and 3 suffixes, so I have to redo that. Okay, here we go. So I have 3 prefixes and 2 suffixes. I want to add another suffix because I'm hoping that, like, oh, I really hope that I can add cold here because of whatever reason. Like, I have an item that I crafted a bunch of resist, so I can't craft anymore, but I have 1 open suffix. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do, man? I still have some more power that I could potentially have on this item, but I can't craft anymore. So what do I do here? I use an Exalted Orb, and it's going to give me a random suffix here because I have 3 prefixes, so it cannot add a prefix. So it's going to guarantee a suffix, but the suffix is random. It added cold rest. Oh, hallelujah, that's exactly what I wanted. Or could it added something that I didn't want? So be very cautious before using Exalted Orbs, and they are very, very valuable. Most leagues recently, 1 Exalted Orb have been the equivalent of 15 Chaos Orbs. And then we have this super juicy currency item as well called Divine Orb. Divine Orbs last couple of leagues have been between 100 and 200 Chaos Orbs. So this is your big boy form of trading currency. When you want to trade more powerful items and you don't want to use up the whole trade window with hundreds and hundreds of Chaos Orbs, people start using Divine Orbs as trading instead. For example, I want to buy a really powerful item. The item costs 800 Chaos Orbs. Divine Orbs are currently equivalent of 200 Chaos Orbs, so I will trade 4 Divine Orbs for this great item that I'm looking for, that I'm trading with another player. And the reason why Divine Orbs are so powerful and the reason why they are so expensive is because they are used for meta crafting, which is a form of crafting that you do in Path of Exile when you want to make really, really powerful items. For example, here, suffixes cannot be changed, costs 2 divines. People do some really incredible meta crafts for some really incredible powerful items in this game, but be very cautious before using Divine Orbs for yourself or anything like that, because they are so expensive. Now, what does Divine Orbs do themselves? Well, they randomize the numeric values of the random modifiers of an item. So that's a little bit hard to explain, but I can show you best right here. The random numeric values are the values of the modifiers that I have on an item and what is shown inside that tier. For example, prefix modifier Fencer tier 5. This cannot reroll the tier of a modifier, but it will reroll the numeric values of the modifier of that tier. Kind of sounds a little bit crazy, but it's very easy to understand if I tell you this. Prefix modifier Fencer tier 5. 43 to 55% increased armor and evasion. You see there in the parentheses of this modifier, 43 to 55. If I use a Divine Orb here, it will re-roll those modifiers on this item. Currently, I have 45% increased armor and evasion, and I have 7 life per enemy killed. If I use a Divine Orb, it now increased these values to 53 and 9. So therefore, this item is now more powerful because the numeric values are now higher. So that's basically how you use Divine Orbs. but only use these if you know what you're doing and you have like a really powerful item that has very good tiers, but the numeric values are low, and you hope that you use one or multiple divine orbs to make those numeric values higher. But remember, it will change all the numbers on all the modifiers. So if you have like 23% cold res here, which is really good, like, oh, that's max roll, 23 is the highest I can have. If you use a divine orb, you can completely brick the percentages of the cold res while making another modifier a lot better. So do keep that in mind, that it is very RNG based when you use a divine orb, if you're actually going to make all your modifiers high percentages or not. And that is basically the end of the video. Of course, there are tons of other currencies in Path of Exile, and they have so many different meanings. You can either read on the item or look them up more specifically to know what they do. But remember this, your normal basic currency are things like transmutation, alteration, augmentation, you have regal, you have alchemy, you have chaos orb, divine orb, so on. You also have a bunch of other basic currency here, which are called basic currency, but for me, basic currency are these like normal ones that you're going to see a lot dropping from enemies, even in Act 10 all the way up to Act 1 all the way to up to Act 10, and in maps, and so on and so on. But yeah, remember that some of these items are more valuable than others, like divine orbs and exalted orbs are more valuable than Orb of Alchemy, of course. Chaos orbs are your standard form of trading currency, but you can also trade with other things. There's a lot of people who trade jeweler orbs for certain things, orb of fusing and stuff like that. And also, if you have a bunch of orb of fusing, you can also trade that into chaos orbs, because there are some people who have a lot of chaos orbs, but they are specifically looking for a bunch of orb of fusings because they want to fuse an item. So you can look at every form of currency is still some form of currency. You can flip transmutes into chaos orbs somehow. There are people that are willing to buy all forms of currency with chaos orbs, and maybe you're in a position one time at some point where you have a bunch of chaos orbs, but you're looking to use a lot of alterations because you're looking to craft something very specific that requires you to have alterations in the step 1 like tutorial of how to craft your item and so on. So do keep that in mind. And thank you very much for watching the video. I know it was a long one, but there's so much information in Path of Exile, and this was obviously very extensive in a way, even though I wanted it to be quick. It is what it is sometimes, but now at least you have all the information that you need on basic currency, some of the other currency, basic crafting, and now you're ready to go out in the world and smash some ass. So remember to follow me at Twitch over at twitch.tv/burgerbrush. Also give a like and subscribe here on YouTube, and have a great day.